Who likes the sound of shifting doubt? Hands up. Yes. I'm going to be sharing one of 7 prophetic messages, which were precepts, which we mapped across into our signature confident brand program and our other programs. This one message was honed and learned by many years of trials. I'm here to tell you that you have a well inside of you that you can tap. It's not just information, it's revelation. Yes? Because isn't revelation better than just information? When I started out, I did not expect that I was going to be able to build a 7 or multiple 7-figure business or even a 6-figure income. Feeling it already. I love it. If you could have one thing today that you could walk out of this call with, one emotion, what would that be? One thing that you need right now, what would that be? And I'd love you to write that down. And confidence, courage, empowerment, peace. Yeah, peace. And they're all secrets of being in the well. And we know that, right? We experience that. We have moments, we have glimpses. Can you remember a time where you've just felt so confident and you've had this vision? And I remember having visions when I was in the middle of worshiping, and I'd get this vision of this massive lion who was covering me, and I was like a little cub, and he was protecting me, and he showed me how he was watching out to look after me, and how he would just let me out from under his belly. And I'd go running out, trying to forage for my food by myself. And then all the while, it was like this mother lion looking, watching, ready with the big paws to go and hit anything that was after the little cub. And I would be in church and I would be experiencing this amazing vision. And then on Monday morning, I would wake up and I would have all this anxiety going through my head. Can anyone relate to that? And I remember sharing this with one of my coaches, and he said to me, Louise, are you the same person on Sunday morning as you are on Monday morning? And I'm like, yes, I am. So what's the difference? The difference is my state. The difference is the way my brain is receiving information. The difference is the triggers all around me that are causing me to be triggered by a bill, or that were causing me to be triggered by looking at the market and thinking, how am I ever going to cut through? How's my message ever going to cut through? I know you can relate to this because we are in a chaotic time right now. So how do you tap into that place of peace, that power, that place where you can pull out of yourself that divine intelligence, that strategy, that prophetic word, and turn that prophetic word into a strategy that brings in revenue? Because you have that within you, because you all have access to God. You have access to the Holy Spirit. The last few months, he's been sharing with me about how to shift, because I work with high performers, and many of them, they love to run like horses. They like to run all the time. And I was so used to running and running and running that I would break down. I would run, 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 go, 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 achieve a goal, and then I go, and I call it performance disorientation. And all of a sudden, you find yourself in a valley. And when you're in a valley, it's chaotic in the valley. All those thoughts flooding through your head like monkeys, the monkey brain. And it's even worse if you're a creative, because you have simultaneous thoughts happening at once. So today I'm going to share with you how to help you tap into that well, how to help you tap into that place of peace, how to help you to overcome that doubt and that burnout. Typically, high performers experience a lot of burnout, and they think that grit is going to get them to the goal. And actually, what I've learned as I've matured in my life and gone through these seasons where I've had challenges come my family and financial challenges, hasn't all been rosy. What I've learned is that there is a well. We're just going to turn on the tap today. We're just going to turn on the tap in our spirits, right? We're just going to light up that fire inside of you, because really that well inside of you is like an oil well. And God shows me so many prophetic pictures of what season we are in. And one of those pictures he showed me was this golden shovel. And I was out in the valley behind where I live. I'm looking out at it right now. And I was on a rock where I've gone for many years, where I've cried in the times that were hard, where I've prayed, where I've worshipped. And I used to go out on that rock and just cry and cry and cry in desperation because of what we were going through financially. And yet, out at that rock, he showed me this vision that I cannot let go of. And it was the picture of a golden shovel. And the spade was made of gold, and the handle was made of wood. And he said to me, Louise, the spade is the spiritual intelligence. It's the prophetic word. And in this season, the prophetic word is cutting the ground. And I'm honing the prophetic in business, and I'm honing the prophetic in you. And the handle is the skills. So we learn the skills and we do the stuff and we learn how to market and we learn how to message. And this is what we take people through in our process of a journey of processing through all those things that you need to do to grow a business and a brand, but with a prophetic lens. And the prophetic lens is like a net that catches you, and a lens of neuroscience, so we can learn how to retrain our minds, because the untrained mind is like a monkey, and you don't have a monkey mind. Your mind is a mirror of your maker. Let me say that again. Your mind is a mirror of your maker. You are a mirror of your maker. So I've got a question for you today. What's being reflected in your mirror? When you wake up in the morning, what is going on in your mind? Is it racing with thoughts about what am I going to do? The market's so busy. I don't know if I'm good enough. There's someone that's doing it better than me. All those thoughts, all those doubts that come in, all those triggers that cause us to doubt ourselves. That's what happens to everybody. Everybody goes through that. I know sometimes when I wake up, it's like my life is like a mirror. And I had to battle first thing in the morning with thoughts flooding through my head. Or I'd look in the mirror and I'd start to criticize how I look and compare myself with how other people look. So what do you see when you look in the mirror? Here's one key for you that you can take away. When you get up and look in the mirror in the morning, I want you to say to yourself, I'm a mirror of my maker, because you're made in his image, yes? Do you agree? And if you start to reinforce those new thoughts, you start to retrain your mind. You start to build new neural pathways in your mind. So I'll share a little bit of my story, and then I'm going to give you some keys to overcome and understanding from a neuroscience perspective, from a prophetic perspective, of how I learned to retrain my mind from even postnatal depression and anxiety and all these worry thoughts. Because I don't know about anyone else, but I come from a long line of warriors. My mother was a warrior. My grandmother was a warrior. My great grandmother was a warrior. Been there? And so while my mother had faith, she also had a lot of anxiety at the same time. So I saw that modeled my whole life. And, you know, when you're a sensitive person, you are very aware of what's around you. So you can understand how I came on this journey from being a little kid in a Catholic family of 7 kids and being very, very middle class. And I actually grew up, wait for it, I grew up in a suburb called Beverly Hills. I grew up in Beverly Hills. Can you believe it? But it wasn't the Beverly Hills like in Hollywood. No, baby, it was not. So we lived in, like, initially it was a 2-bedroom house, and mum and dad just kept adding all these little rooms on, pokey little rooms on, because it's 7 kids in 11 years. And I was number 3 of 5 under 5. Anyone else a middle child? I was number 3, and there were twins after me. So I learned at a very young age to start to look after everybody else. And I feel like a lot of high performers are like that. They go into leadership roles and coaching roles and run businesses because they've learned from a very young age to look after other people, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because they have to learn how to receive. How good are you at receiving? And so I grew up in Beverly Hills, and God reminded me a couple of really funny things. last. Firstly, he said, well, you grew up in Beverly Hills, and the name of the street that I lived in was Jordan Avenue. Hello, Jordan River. We're going to the promised land. And then I moved to where we live now, to a place called Illawong. And Illawong is an Aboriginal name, and it means the meeting of where the rivers converge, which is where the fish are. And the reason why this was funny, and actually the name of my street is Portland Close. And the reason why this is funny is because God gave me this prophetic word about catching a whale. And I said, what is a whale? And he's like, it's 6 figures in 6 weeks. And I'm like, okay. So I went, all right, I'm going to catch a whale, because who knows that when God gives you a prophetic word, you don't just hear the word, you have to steward the word. You have to believe in the word. You have to ask him for strategy about the word. So I just got this in my head and I'm like, I'm doing this. And so that was the first time we did 6 figures in 6 weeks through a challenge, which I didn't really know how to run a challenge. I just did it. And I felt like in that season, I learned something. And I learned that catching whales, we call 100K and a million K, we captured a whale in my world, in my pod. I learned that when you're going to catch a whale, it's like being like a whale. You are birthing something, and it's like you go underwater, deep, deep to the well. Who wants the well? Go to the well. Because when you go to the well, you're in that place of deep calls to deep. And you're filled with this overflowing love and overflowing conviction. And you have this confidence that is divine. You have this confidence that's bigger than all the doubts. You have this confidence that's bigger than your ceiling of what you believe you can earn. It's bigger than that. And you've probably had times where you've experienced glimpses of this, or maybe even periods of time where you've experienced this deep flow. We spent 6 weeks. I put it in my phone. I put it on a calculator in my phone, and I'm like, I'm going for this 100K in 6 weeks. And over that time, the miraculous revelation and prophetic dreams that I had, I started having models. I was writing at 3 a.m. in the morning. Who knows that when you latch onto a prophetic word, that you start to capture dreams and visions that you didn't even know. You start to notice what's around you. My daughter and her boyfriend at the time went out fishing, and they'd been out fishing so many times and they'd never seen a whale. And in that time, they saw a whale. I had clients messaging me saying, God gave me a dream about a whale, and then I heard your story and I realized, like, I want to catch a whale. Or they'd been given a word about $1 million or $100,000, and they're like, I know I'm meant to work with you. And things started to come together. He started to draw people together. I had no ads. I was just sharing out of the prophetic word, which is what I was reflecting. I was a mirror of what he was showing me. See, your message is a mirror. Your mind is a mirror. Your marketing is a mirror. And even your money is a mirror of what's going on inside you. And this is why I'm so passionate about working with people around all of those areas, around retraining their brains and their hearts. When I was 3, my parents found out that I was blind in one eye. And when I was 3, another thing happened. And I remembered this many years later. I remembered that my nana was an Avon lady. And she used to take me out to see all the customers with her, because she was minding me, because mum had these 2 babies, these twins, and the other 2 were at school. And she would take me around with her to see these ladies. And I look back years later and realized he was setting me up. He was setting me up to sell. I started my sales career when I was 3 years old. I then went into becoming an Avon lady when I was 13. I had to get permission from my mum to be an Avon lady. Why did I become an Avon lady at 13? Why did I start reading books about neuroscience when I was 12? Why was I listening to Zig Ziglar when I was 12 years old and learning about sales? I didn't know at the time, but there's one thing I do know as I look back, is that God had predestined me for a lifetime where I would help people with making money through sales, and I would help people to change their mindset. What was it that you were doing when you were a kid that God predestined you for? This is a question that we ask people in our programs, because when you start to tap into that childlike wonder, not only do you start to experience a childlike faith that you are being like a child, but you access this divine intelligence that is the answer to whatever problem you have right now. Who knows that? And I realized this, that as I became more childlike, as I look back and remember being a child, curiosity stimulates dopamine in the brain. Curiosity helps you to have serotonin. Fun helps those chemicals in the brain that allow you to get into this flow state, like I was with that 6-figure days, where I'm actually highly concentrated focus on my goal. And so you can have a highly concentrated focus on your goal. And so the reason why I became an Avon lady at 12, that wasn't my first job, by the way, but was because I was a super sensitive kid and I was very aware of the lack. I was embodying the environment that I was in. I saw my parents working really, really, really hard. And we weren't poor, but I do remember feeling kind of cold in the house. And I do remember scrambling and eating my food really fast. And anyone relate to this? And whether you grew up in a house where you had nothing or you were comfortable, it doesn't matter, because what you receive and perceive, you start to reflect. You begin to reflect what you expect, and you become a mirror of what's outside of you. Fast forward, I got married and I'm in my 20s, and we decided to build our dream house. And then halfway through the build, the builder went broke. It took 18 months to finish the house. We had to finish the house ourselves, pay suppliers directly. And we moved into our house, and I was pregnant with our first child, 9 months pregnant, 3 weeks overdue, right? I'm ready to drop this baby. And then Jim came home and his job had been shut down. His company had been taken over and he lost his job. And we had 18% interest rates back then. I think we were earning like $78 a week or something. It was crazy. And I look back now and I go, training ground, training ground. It was a training ground, because I've got to tell you, when I heard that news and I'm about to drop our first baby, and I was already prone to being anxious, coming from a long line of warriors, I had to learn, I had to employ, I had to pull on everything within me, and I had to go to God. And back then I believed in God, but I hadn't really had an experience of the Holy Spirit like I did later on in life when I completely surrendered. And so that was the beginning of my training ground. And I ended up going into a party plan company and then starting other businesses. And then over the years, over the last 3 decades now, I've been working with CEOs and boards and founders and direct selling companies to help people to shift quickly and grow. So I say all this to say I've been there and I know what it's like. And that wasn't the end of it. We had many years of financial trauma where we were experiencing companies closing down again and again and again. And I began to believe that identity of what was outside of me. I began to believe it. So I'm here to tell you that God said to me one day, I've trained you like a Navy SEAL, like David when he was in the caves hiding, when he had to learn how to shoot the giant by shooting all the sheep. And I realized something, that there is a well, and that I'm a mirror of my maker. And when I started to allow the Lord to be my shepherd, I started to say that word, I shall not want. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And do you know that shepherds back in the day, some of them were even quite famous. They were very skilled and they know how to lead the sheep. And the sheep were a very important commodity. And they would lead the sheep beside the still waters. Because if the sheep got beside crazy torrential rivers, they would drown because of their wool. And so he led the sheep beside still waters where they could drink. And he led them to green pastures. So the shepherd knows where you need to go to get your food, to get your sustenance. And it's really been a lifetime of learning to trust that shepherd instead of my mind, especially those of you that are creative or intelligent or you like to learn and you think a lot. Hands up if that's you. So I want to encourage you and tell you a little bit about the brain. And then what I'm going to do is going to give you some keys to help you to be a mirror, a true mirror of that divine intelligence, how to tap that oil within you, how to tap that intelligence within you. On that slide, I'm showing you the 3 different states that we can operate in. And you'll see there at the bottom is survival state. Now, certainly in those years, I was in survival state. I was in a state for many years where I started to believe my circumstances. And my life became a reflection of my expectation. When you're in survival state, that's when you get triggered. It might be about money. For me, it was about money and the emotions that went around that. But it was like, how are we going to make money? And yeah, on one hand, I'm like tapping into God, and on the other hand, I'm feeling all this anxiety. And so when you're in survival state, your primitive brain kicks into fight or flight. Many of you probably know this. When you're in survival state, there's been a study by Duke University on monkeys, and the monkeys were found to be motivated by rewards, right? And so they did this study, and they noticed that the part of the brain that judges the value of rewards adjusts expectations when circumstances change. And so when the monkeys expected a reward and they didn't get it, there was an error in their brain. And so their response to influence their future behavior and motivation, because the brain forms its expectations based on past experiences. So when we kept having unexpected financial hits, my brain would quickly take me into discouragement and disappointment. Has anyone had unexpected disappointments or financial hits? If you're in business, you're going to have to learn that you're going to have these triggers. You're going to have people say no to you. You're going to have people ghost you. You're going to have zero response sometimes when you're marketing, especially now. So now more than ever, we have to harness and steward our minds, our magnificent brains. And so as the rewards are inconsistent, the motivation decreases. But we don't have to be like this. So the transition state is what a lot of people go through when they become frustrated, dissatisfied with where they're at. In that state, we start to experience a lot of doubt and uncertainty because we're learning something new. We're trying to figure out new ways to do something. And when you're in that transition state, you can experience a lot of burnout, because for a high performer, A-type personality, go-getter, for those kind of personality types that want to create something, the entrepreneur, our go-to is often to do more. I learned how to do more. I could create my way out of anything. But one day I just got so burned out by doing more that God said to me, hey, Louise, everything is permissible, but not everything is profitable. Everything is permissible, but not everything is profitable. And that was really hard for me because I am creative and I've got 1 billion thoughts going through my head. Do you know that we have 1,400 words going through our mind in a minute? And for women, I'm going to say it's double that, even though it's not. And then if you're creative, I'm going to say it's triple that. And then if you've got ADHD, I'm going to say it's quadruple that. My husband would probably say I've got 10 billion thoughts going through my head in a minute. So you've got to learn to slow that brain down. And one of the biggest things to be able to get yourself into this higher state where you're accessing this prophetic intelligence and reflecting him and being a mirror of your maker is to learn how to be still and know. Because I'm here to tell you today, and this is one of the key messages I want you to take out of this, is that you have a knowing inside of you. You know what to do. You can tap into that well. Be still and know. He said to me earlier this year, I want you to be still and know. Over the last number of years, I've been studying flow neurobiology because I'm so obsessed with neuroscience. Do you know that Andrew Newberg is a scientist and he did studies on nuns and monks, and they had different things happening in their brain. But one of the things that happened when they prayed was that their amygdala, which is their fear activating part of your brain, reduced when they prayed. And what increased, they lost their sense of time and space. And so they had more of a sense of the universe, the higher consciousness, the spiritual intelligence. And this actually mapped on their brain under a SPECT scan. And when I learned that, I started to realize even more that there's this intersection of God, how he made our brains to connect at a higher level. And all we need to learn this skill, which is a skill set that no one teaches you. And a 3-day motivational event won't cut it, to actually tap into this higher state where you start to have prophetic strategy and maps and blueprints to answer your questions and take you faster to the goal. And the thing that I love about this study was the fact that the loss of time and space, because can I tell you, when I did that 6 figures in 6 weeks and I felt like that whale under the water birthing, it was very, very quiet. I was busy, I was working, but I wasn't frantically running like a racehorse that was going to break down. I was just strongly, elegantly going through the water. And I got to take people in my slipstream and then teach other people how to do the same thing. Remember that you are a mirror of your maker. And inside of you is this higher intelligence that you can tap into. And science is proving this more and more. The world needs to hear your spiritual wisdom. And this is why I'm so passionate about converging our spiritual gifts with our expertise, because literally it's like the golden shovel, baby. It's the golden shovel. And you can't have the handle of the shovel without the spade, and you can't just have the spiritual without doing the work. See, some people will become bliss junkies and they're just up in this high place and they're always there, but they actually won't learn the skills. And before I came on this call, I felt like I saw a picture of Jesus when he was a carpenter shaving off a piece of wood. And it's like, okay, you're honing the skills. And I knew he wanted me to share that. So we're going to do a little exercise. Is everybody cool with that? What we're going to do is I'm going to teach you a couple of things that you can do to tap into your well. Is everybody with me, baby? Because baby, I'm burning. Baby, I'm burning. I get a bit carried away with my songs. A few of you know that. Someone's knocking at the door. Somebody's ringing the bell. God started giving me that song when I was doing that 6-figure challenge and kept having me sing it all the time. And I realized that when he gives me these songs, they heal people. We had somebody healed of arthritis on one of our business calls. We had somebody healed of fear around sales. And she was like, it was when you sang that song. And I'm like, I don't know. I just randomly got this song. Someone's knocking at the door. Somebody's ringing the bell. And then I realized, Avon calling, ding dong. Okay, so you know what I love about that? The name of the band that song is from is called Wings, and they call it Wings at the Speed of Light. And one of the mantles that God's given me is, he said, I want you to find the eagles and take them to the top of their mountain. And I'm like, all these things he shows you, if you listen and you watch, it's all around you. The answers are all around you. And so I want you to get a piece of paper, and I'm going to show you something here on this board behind me. All right. So we talked about your external world. So you've got a choice. You've got a choice. In your external world, you're going to have all these things. All right. So in your external world, you've got social media. You've got, thinking about the market. You've got the chaos in the market. You've got things like criticism. You've got things like people doubting you, like, when people don't applaud you, or nobody's taking any notice of when you've gone live and you've shared something, or you might have people saying no to you. And most likely, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have people saying no to you. And so you have all this external stimuli. And that's all going on above the line. And under the line, this is where the fun stuff happens. Under the line is the well. Under the line is your subconscious memories, your associations, your neural pathways. That's all under the line. Here's your brain. I'm a very good drawer. That's your brain. And so I'm going to get you to, for a moment, just stop and pause. And we're going to do a little exercise. I'm going to get you to draw a line and draw a face at the bottom, just like I have. Draw a line, draw your face. And then above the line, I want you to ask God in this one moment. Maybe it's about your marketing or your message or about money or about what am I going to do next. But I want you to ask God, what's one lie that I am believing right now? One lie that's above the line. Maybe it's like, I can't make 7 figures. Maybe it's no one's going to receive me when I speak. Maybe it's nobody's going to buy my program or buy into this opportunity. I'm just going to give you a moment to reflect. We all have them. We all have these noise, these 14 billion thoughts going through our head, and it's costing us money. Doubts about our identity, doubts about money. It's too hard. See, sometimes when it's too hard, there's a thing called the flow cycle, and we start off being excited, and then what happens is we have this hit of dopamine because we're excited about something new, but then we start to hit walls. And we actually start to get to a point where we can't stay in flow. Do you know that they've proven now through the latest research in science that actually 2 hours is probably the maximum for most people to be able to focus, really fully focus. So the lie is that you have to work 14-hour days. And I realized when I started studying this that I had to learn to recover more. A lot of high performers don't know how to recover enough. And then we've got the other end where people who are just like hiding and in denial and not doing anything. Okay, so no one will join me. I'll never build a team. I've been through all of those thoughts. I ended up working in a corporate role in a direct selling company after I built a few different businesses. And that was an amazing experience for me. I got to share a lot of the things that I'd learned in building my own businesses. I don't know how. You know, when somebody says, I don't know how, you know what I say? I know you don't know, but if you did know, what would it be? I'm pretty sure I stole that one from Dr. Phil. I'm unseen. Do you know what's going to get you seen? Do you know what's going to help people to come to you? It's when you start reflecting that you're a mirror of your maker. When you start to tap into that place of peace, when you start to tap into that higher intelligence, you're going to have deep peace and you're going to have conviction because his ways are higher than our ways. I want the well. So I'm trying to reinforce in your mind that you're a mirror of your maker. And the more you can be a mirror, see, sometimes we look in the mirror and our mirror gets smashed. This is the mirror reflecting. We can either reflect out or we can allow all our external world to reflect in. Now I'm going to ask you to do something. I want you to ask God. I want you to come down here and I'm going to get you to take a deep breath because breathing is one of the amazing tools that God's given us. I've learned a lot about different types of breathing. You can slow down your nervous system very quickly by breathing. And so I want you to take a deep breath in for 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to get you to hold it for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I want you to go when you breathe out, like a whoosh sound. And just do one more breath in, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then out. Big deep breath out. And when you blow out, you're blowing out that doubt. Blow out the doubt, baby. I'm a poet and I didn't know it. I want you to soften your body because, your body tells the story. And I learned a lot about this with selling is the way you feel in your body, your energy is transferred. When you start to tap into this higher place, the reason I was able to work with people, multi-millionaires, even $3 billion businesses, owners, and even here I am, like coming from this very basic household, almost ashamed, feeling like we were poor, even though we weren't poor. And, it was because I learned how to come up to this frequency. And that's what I want to teach you, because when you're operating from another level, and God made our brains like this, God made our brains, you actually can start to use another language. I call it speaking eagle. The way you're going to attract more people is you learn how to speak eagle. So speaking eagle for me is like tapping into these higher revelations. I understand how the brains process. The people that I'm speaking to, see, there's certain words that will allow the people that you want to attract to notice and pay attention to you. There's certain motivational drivers that some people have that others don't. Like, I know my best clients, I call them in, I play the violin at this pitch, and some people like the violin and some people don't. And I whistle. God told me to whistle for my clients. It's in Isaiah, it says, whistle, and they will come from broad and afar, and they will come easily and effortlessly. So as you learn to speak the language that comes from out of your well, you're going to attract and draw people to you. So close your eyes for a moment and ask him, what is the truth that sits under this mirror that he wants you to believe right now, today? What's the truth? I'm going to share with you 3 keys that you can take away, and we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A. And I'd love to do a little activation with you. I am free to run. I love it. I love it. I love it. The real me. I'm enough. Yes, you are, Tanya. Okay. So 3 keys. The first key is I said, be still and know that I'm God. And the beginning of the year, somebody sent me a picture of Lake Louise, which is in Canada. And I've been there many years ago because God called me to the States and Canada. And I look back and realize he called me to the States and Australia as a mission field. So Lake Louise is this beautiful lake in Canada. And somebody sent me this picture of Lake Louise, and he started saying to me, be like a lake, be like a lake. And then he started talking to me about being a mirror. And a lake is still, and you can see yourself clearly in the lake. And so being still is taking enough time to be still, because when you're still for long enough, you begin to hear the birds, you begin to see signs, you begin to hear his voice again, and he will tell you what to do, because what? He is your shepherd, and you shall not want. And he leads you, he restores your soul. And so number 1, I'm going to show you how do you get into that place, right? Because it's all very well to say it, but how do you get into that place? This is what he showed me. See this rope? I was in church one day. He showed me a picture of rope, and I was feeling really anxious about money. And he said, at one end of the rope is control, and at the other end of the rope is anxiety, and they're linked together. And you know what he said to me? He said, drop the rope. Drop the rope. And that's surrender. So number 1 is drop the rope. Hard to do, but it works. You should try it. Number 2 is be like the lake. Be still. Slow down. There's a new rhythm. There is a new rhythm. We are in a new rhythm now. It's not the same as before. Even for you high performers that go, and you've achieved all these things. It's not the same as before. It's not about more. It's actually about simplifying and distilling and being still. That's the other word it keeps giving me, distill. Distill, simplify, be still. Go slower, and you can be like the whale. And number 3 is let your message reflect the mirror inside of you. Let your message be like speaking eagle. Let your message be like calling out, calling people up to the highest place of what you know. But you've got to do the first two first. So first, drop the rope to be still, and you will know, Jeremiah 33:3, that he will teach you unsearchable, can't search them on the internet, and remarkable things you did not know that are strategies for $1 million brand. And number 3 is your message, Speak Eagle. I know that you are searching for this and that you have it inside of you. And I want to exhort you today and encourage you that you're in this place, this amazing community that is going to be there. And, you know, when you come into a community like this, something happens called group flow, where you start to all move up together. And that's what I love about this industry. I've got some tools. We have a free flow self-assessment. We have got a lot of free content, actually, and we've got programs as well.
Wow, wasn't that incredible? Did that get you thinking about how you can unlock more spiritual strategies to produce more revenue? Is it time for you to change you or your team's inner game? Maybe you're ready to turn your vision into a unique 7- or 8-figure brand with a high-caliber method and million-dollar message that's waiting to be untapped. Go ahead and hit the link below if you'd like to invite Louise to speak or consult, or if you'd like to explore her VIP C-level retreats or higher call brand mentoring program.